So today's episode, we had Heather Blankenship on the show, and she has a super cool story. She's got over 300 units of RV rentals, of mobile home parks, of multifamily, and you won't believe the things she's doing with them. She's putting these cabins on them. She's creating these glamping tents that is the craziest industry I've ever heard. And on top of that, she's making over $100,000 a month in passive income from these investments. So we talk about how she went from the path of having no money and growing up poor to buying her very first property for $3.2 million, no money down. It's super crazy, guys. So make sure you stay all the way through the podcast. Now, let's jump into it. Are you looking to grow your real estate investing business? My company, Future Flipper, can help. We've taught hundreds of people all over the country how to flip, wholesale, and buy rental properties. And it doesn't matter where you're at in your investing journey. Whether you're trying to get your first deal or scale your company, Future Flipper can help. We have courses, coaching, and events for all levels of investors. So if you want to take the next step, go to futureflipper.com and book a free consultation to see how we can best help you. Once again, that's futureflipper.com. One of the best ways to get off-market real estate deals is through cold calling. And if you want to reach as many people as fast as possible, then you need Batch Dialer. With their predictive dialing technology and built-in CRM, Batch Dialer is one of the top dialers in the industry. You can switch between single or multi-line dialing, as well as do voicemail drops and call recordings. And for being a listener of The Ryan Pineda Show, you'll get a 7-day free trial. Just go to batchdialer.com/Ryan. Once again, that's batchdialer.com/Ryan. Welcome to The Ryan Pineda Show, where our mission is to invest.
I only expect to make money in things that I understand.
Innovate.
It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past.
And inspire. I am much more likely to hit my goal just due to putting it out there.
You're now rocking with the best.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Ryan Pineda Show. Today, I have Heather Blankenship on the show, and we're going to talk all about RV parks, mobile home parks, and get this, glamping. What's up?
Good. How are you?
Yeah? Are you good? You seemed a little nervous.
I think starting over threw me off.
Yeah, so if you guys didn't know, we actually had to do a second take of this because our audio equipment went off. But it's all good because now I know even more about what you got going on, and so it's going to be a really fun episode for everyone. So if anyone didn't know, Heather is I don't even know how to put this now that I kind of have more information on you, like an RV park investor, a mobile home park investor, but then you have this glamping business as well. Like how many units do you have at this point?
Just over 300.
300 units
total. Yeah.
That's crazy. So, and where's that at majority wise?
Mostly in East Tennessee.
East Tennessee, okay. And you live in, you said Florida earlier. So tell me about this business. Like, how did you get into the RV business and like the mobile home business?
Yeah, it was interesting. So I was driving across the country from Florida to California in a camper, staying at all these different campgrounds. And I was like, hey, it's just renting parking spots. It's got to be easy. Side note, it is not renting parking spots. So I started calling around looking for an RV park near where I lived at the time, which was Knoxville, Tennessee. And I found one that was bank owned. Back then, banks were just kind of giving away properties, stuff that they had left on their books from the collapse. And so if you've ever read Sam Zell's book, he says, I was successful because I didn't know I shouldn't have been. I shouldn't have asked for the loan. They shouldn't have given me the loan. It was $3.2 million, and they gave it to me non-recourse with no money down. But I still had to learn to run an RV park.
So, yeah, let's take a step and think about this. Today, banks would not do that.
No, definitely not.
So how much did you have to put down for a 3.2?
Literally nothing.
Nothing. Why would they do this?
Because they were trying to operate it themselves, and it had been sitting on their books for over a year, and they were just losing money.
So did you essentially just take it over subject to? Or they gave you just a brand new loan?
They just gave me a brand new loan, which I have redone the loan many times since then. But that original loan was non-recourse with no money down.
Wow. I've done a lot of no money down deals, but never have they been like direct with the bank where the bank's like, yeah, no, we'll fund you.
They want something. They
Yeah.
usually want something.
That's crazy. And
it-
you had no experience.
None. And it being a small regional bank had to have made the difference. And that relationship with a small regional bank has made a huge difference in my investment career because I know that I can call them and pretty much get whatever I need. When you're a customer at a larger bank, you don't have that benefit.
Right. So you originally mentioned like you just saw this place and you're like, oh, okay. And how did you even get the deal?
In what context?
Like, was it just up for sale and you were like, okay, I'll make an offer?
Yeah, so I was Googling campgrounds for sale, RV parks
Yeah.
for sale. There was a tourist town near where I lived, which is Pigeon Forge. And we have Dollywood, which is our version of Disney World, and the Smoky Mountain National Park, which is the #1 visited national park in the country.
Okay,
So I
fun
didn't,
fact.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about evaluating deals, but I just kept thinking, how could it go wrong? It's in a huge tourist town.
Mm-hmm.
So I called the bank, and
They just gave you that loan.
they just took a risk.
Okay, so you buy this $3.2 million, property. You have no
Yes.
experience. You don't even know what you're going to probably do with it at
No,
this
I
point.
have no idea.
So what happens?
So I closed on April 1st, and I moved into the office because I didn't want to give up any of the income and was living in the office so that I could figure out how to run it. I joined an association that was related to RV parks so that I could ask a couple other owners and learn a little bit about what they were doing. And I decided that I wanted to add an accommodation to it. And so I started with some camping cabins. So they're kind of like tiny homes, and they've got a little kitchenette in them, and they've got enough room for a family of 5 to sleep in them. And they rent for a couple $100 a night. And from there, I went with rental campers. The rental campers are super neat. They cost me about $30,000 a piece. Last year, I bought 5, so it was about $150,000. And they took in $140,000 over that 12 months. So it's almost a year payoff.
Yeah, if you get 100% return in a year, it's well worth it.
Yeah, and those camping cabins are bringing in just over $500,000. So they're kicking out the cash also.
How many of those do you have that bring in that?
I'm up to 21 of those.
So 21 camping cabins are bringing in $500,000.
They are. And
How
they're
much
short.
those things cost?
You can get them anywhere from $30,000 to $70,000. The ones I have are kind of middle of the road, about $50,000.
So for $50,000 investment, what is the math? They're bringing in like 25 grand a year. So in 2 years, those pay themselves off too.
They do, and they have a longer life than the campers do, so they're about the same level of investment. But the neatest part is this huge trend in glamping. So the outdoor recreation industry is 2.2% of our GDP and a $115 billion industry. So people don't realize how huge of an industry it is.
This is in the U.S.?
In the U.S., yes. So
Wow.
it's bigger than agriculture. And so people are into this unique experience right now. So they want to go glamping, which is glamorous camping. So I bought 15 safari tents, and they have Appalachian log furniture and these neat, luxurious mattresses and linens. So people want to post on their social media, hey, I'm going camping, but they don't want to set up a tent and they don't want to do all the work. So they go glamping.
Well, hold on one sec though. Like when I think about a tent, I'm thinking like it can barely just fit me in it and maybe someone else. If you have a really baller tent, it maybe could fit 4 people.
Right.
But you're talking about putting log furniture, a mattress, and like how big are these tents?
I don't know the dimensions on them. They're maybe 12 by 24. And so they sleep 5 people. They've got heat and air and a K-cup machine. So
How do they have electricity?
they do have power run to them. They don't have water or sewer, but they do have power.
So, okay, they do have to rough it a little bit. But they have AC. They have what kind of mattress? Is it air mattress?
No, they definitely aren't sleeping on an air mattress. They're hotel quality mattresses.
So, like, they have Tempur-Pedics or, like, really?
Yes.
Okay. So, guys, I want to see more of this. Like, I'm going to need you after the podcast to send, like, videos and pictures of this so that we can post it on the YouTube channel. So if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you're probably seeing it right now. And if you're not, make sure you go check out the YouTube channel and subscribe, because I just can't even picture what exactly this is in my mind. Because when you first said, we do camping and glamping, I'm thinking, okay, they get a little teepee, or something like that. And now you're like, oh no, you get a luxurious mattress, hotel quality, fine linens, Egyptian cotton. You're like, what's going on with this?
It's a huge industry now, and it's not just tents. Like you said, there's teepees, there's covered wagons. People are really into the trend. It's become a whole industry within itself.
Yeah. Like, what do people pay to do that?
The ones that I have in a tourist town that are not the high-end glamping tent, they're paying about $200 a night. It's on a dynamic pricing.
Wait, did you say this is not the glamorous ones? Like, these are not the high-end ones?
They're not the high-end. The high-end you can get $400 or $500 a night because those have showers and bathrooms, and they're basically a hotel room.
Why would somebody stay in this? Like, it's not even a tent.
They want that unique experience.
I'm so stunned by, like, people's... comment below, guys, if you're on YouTube. Comment below if you've ever stayed in one of these, because I'm just, like, shocked. $500 a night is not cheap.
It is not.
So if I'm staying at $500 a night, I'm thinking, okay, I'm here at the Hyatt. I'm at the, some really nice hotel. But you're telling me these people pay $500 for this super luxury tent.
Well, and the thing to note is that they're typically also paying for the area they're in. So these properties are going to have maybe a pool. They're going to have some fishing. They're going to have some hiking. There's going to be something that they're looking to do that's outdoorsy.
This is a full-on. Is there a buffet?
I'm sure we could make that happen.
I'm guessing there's like waiters and fine dining at the log table. That blows my mind that tents do that. Plus, they have pools. What else they have that I don't know about? Like. Butlers. Do you have maid service?
There is a maid service. Yep, they'll come.
So it is like a hotel.
It is. They'll come build your fire for you, so you can roast marshmallows at night.
Wow. So this is that first 100 unit that you bought. That like you're doing all this.
Yes, and that's developed into that. When I first bought it, it was simply the RV sites, and over the last 10 years, it's grown into a massive operation.
Yeah, because when I first met you, it was like, okay, the RVs. Okay, you got 100 lots. You're gonna throw 100 RVs on this thing, and I've seen RV parks. Like I get it. Some of them have these picnic areas and like campfire stuff, but that's every RV I've seen. But you're telling me like this is, I don't even know, like Burning Man or something out here.
So there's many levels. So there's campgrounds, there's RV parks, and then there's outdoor hospitality resorts.
Is that what you would classify as?
So
you're like the highest level.
Yeah, we're
resort.
talking a little bit more like an outdoor hospitality resort. So it's essentially the typical hotel resort that you're thinking of, only outdoors.
Outdoors. It's like an outdoor mall. I got it. So what was it like? I mean, that's what it is today. Like how much does this thing bring in then at 100 lots and all this stuff?
Yeah, so over the last 12 months, it's about $2 million gross.
$2 million gross. So, okay, you bought this thing for 3.2. Like, what's this thing worth today?
So campgrounds are valued on a cap rate. And so with the comparable cap rates at about $13 million now.
Wow. So this one deal, we're talking, I mean, granted, how much do you think you've put into it over the years?
Nothing. I pull it back out.
Well, I'm just saying, like, putting up the
CapEx that you put in.
Well, the cabins and those RVs, like, how much do you think you've put in?
Maybe another $2 million.
Okay, so you're all in it for 5, and it's worth 13. You've made $8 million plus all the cash flow, and I'm sure you've been refinancing.
Yes.
Just getting all that tax-free money.
Yes.
That's crazy. I'm in the wrong business. I'm over here making content and flipping these houses when I need to be owning tents. I didn't realize I needed to own tents.
Again, it's that whole unique experience. I've even seen people redoing buses, and they've got these really cool buses that they've decked out, and it's a whole trend.
Yeah, I got to start looking up on the trends. So what did you do before? I mean, I'm sure 10 years ago when you bought it, you had no idea what you're doing. You're not thinking over here, I'm going to have the nicest tent ever made. Like, what happened?
That's true. I went to college for supply chain management and did my internship and was totally miserable.
What, like, every time you say something, it's something new that I'm like, what is supply chain management?
So supply chain is purchasing and logistics, warehousing, transportation, nothing exciting.
Okay. Yeah, that does sound boring. All right.
Yeah. And so I do my internship in that, and I just thought, there's no way I'm doing this for the rest of my life. So I moved to Memphis and got a job bartending until I figured out what I wanted to do, and I got a job as a finance manager at Enterprise. And I loved it. It was a great job. I got married, and my ex-husband had a job that had us traveling around, and so I decided I wasn't going to work anymore and travel with him. I tried sewing, I tried knitting, I ran a couple marathons, and it just wasn't the stay-at-home kind of person.
Wait, but when you say sewing and knitting, is that because you were stay-at-home? Or you
Right,
just,
that's like what the world tells me I'm supposed to
Okay.
be, and I just wasn't that.
yeah. So then what happened?
I started researching these businesses and came across the campground, and like we said, I bought that, and then I learned about leverage, and that was kind of the tipping point for me when learning to leverage that property. So I started buying mobile home parks, which is a whole nother industry that I love. And then I stumbled into Section 8, which I then learned I could do Section 8 in mobile home parks, and just kept buying from there.
So you started with the first one, and I assume you didn't have like a lot of money back then.
Yes, I had no money.
Okay, so you had no money. You start with how did you get it up and running and making money to buy these other ones?
I don't know.
You just were winging it, just hustling.
Seriously. And being willing to make immediate decisions and not sit around and think about stuff and keep pushing those trends. And I started doing Google clicks and pay for Google AdWords.
PPC, yeah.
And that pulled in the business in the beginning, and then social stuff started getting big, and I was running my own Facebook page, which was the way everybody was doing it then. And so I started pulling customers in from Facebook and the Google AdWords, and all went from there.
So you start, you buy this place, you get it up and running. Where does deal number 2 come into play? Like, how many years later was it? And
it was about 5 years. It took me a little while, since I literally knew nothing about real estate or running a business. It took me a little while to get on my feet and to get that property cash flowing in order to have some money to pull out and buy the next property.
How long did it take to actually get it stabilized?
Probably 4 years before. Well, it was stable within maybe 3 years. And by the 4th year, I could start paying myself.
So were you were living on the property during that time too?
Yes.
Did you ever move out of the office?
I did. I got a camper.
So you were just being the property manager, learning the ins and outs of the business.
Yeah, and I had 2 kids during that time. And so I had the kids living in the camper, and I would have one strapped to me and running the office. There's pictures somewhere of me with 2 kids strapped to me answering phone calls, and
Wow.
just make it work.
I would have, and we'll talk about social media later, but did you document any of that on social media?
I didn't realize how unique it was at the time. I was so immersed in that property there. You don't realize the outside world is so different when you're just,
You're like, this is normal life.
this is normal.
Yeah, and I think about that too with my career as a couch flipper back in the day. I'm like, this is just what I do.
Exactly.
And then people are like, now people do it. They're documenting their journey couch flipping. I'm like, that is cool. Like, people resonate with that. Just seeing somebody trying to figure something out.
Exactly.
So that would have been really cool. So you get it stabilized. You do a refi.
Yes.
How much? Do you remember how much it was? Or
Well, when I did the first refi, I bought a couple properties at once. I bought a small mobile home park, a duplex, a triplex, and then 7 mobile homes that were on one street. So I had gotten divorced, and my ex-husband owned 20% of the property. So I did that refi originally to buy him out.
Oh.
And in order to take on more debt, I wanted to make sure I had more money coming in.
Right.
So I bought those additional properties, bought him out, and that was the first time I did that.
Okay. And so this is back in 15, 16?
4 or 5 years ago, yeah.
Okay. And how many additional units was that?
Maybe 50.
Okay. You just it's all at once. It's
It
all right,
is.
I'm going to buy 100. I'll buy 50 here. And then what happened? You got those going. Obviously, you have way more experience at this point.
Yeah, it's, what they talk about with momentum is really how it works. Once you do the first deal, you don't even think about it. You quickly decide it's a good deal and you keep moving. So it probably wasn't, I don't know, maybe 6 months. And the industry had gotten more fire and was growing. So that first property just kept growing in value. I converted to a franchise about that time, and the franchise pushed me to increase my rates and use a different type of software that has dynamic pricing, kind of like a hotel or an airline would use. And so what happens is at 50% occupancy, my price increases 10% every 10% of occupancy. So I doubled my gross that year. So the property,
Not doing anything different other than
literally
dynamic
just
pricing.
the software.
Yeah.
And so that alone gave me more cash to go buy more property. So I bought 2 more mobile home parks and a small apartment complex that next round.
That's crazy. You know what's funny is, so I have the Airbnbs, which I would say is very comparable to the RV thing.
Operations very similar.
Yeah, they're both just hotels essentially.
Right.
And on Airbnb, they have their own dynamic pricing thing, but it's trash.
Really?
Yeah, they definitely don't ever. If you're listening to this, guys, don't ever use Airbnb's dynamic pricing. We tried it before, and it just was always like way undervalued.
What didn't you like about it? What didn't work?
It just was always like the wrong price. You know, it would be like, yeah, we think you should price it at $200 a night, but people would pay $400. So it was just always undervaluing it.
Yeah, and so the company that has that software, they have a trial going right now to do like a beta test to see if, so customer 1's on the site and customer 2's on the site, and they'll show them 2 different prices to see if they really would have paid that higher price at a lower time. So it'll be interesting to see how the future of that develops, to see if that pushes it even further.
And I'm sure Airbnbs will get better, but we don't use it at all in any of my Airbnbs. Like, we manually go in every day, look at the calendars. Well, I don't. My manager does. Look at the calendars, adjust pricing, and, you know, we're going to shoot for the stars, like if it's far out, right?
Yeah.
And just really high. And then as it gets closer and closer, we'll just keep dropping price until it gets booked.
Are most yours in the same area, or
Yeah, they're all in the same spot.
So that makes it easier because you know what your occupancy is for that area.
Yeah. Well, and I guess there's multiple ways to do this, but on Airbnb, we're like close to 100% occupancy.
That's awesome.
And it's just because we're constantly adjusting that price to get it done. So,
and that's the neat thing about the RV park side of that is we don't need a company like Airbnb. So I'm not giving a percentage away. Where all those properties are in one area, I'm at almost 100% occupancy also. And all my reservations run through my site.
Right.
And so I'm not giving that percentage away to another company.
yeah, no, and I think obviously your guys' software's a lot more sophisticated and tailor-made to that. It's just I'll say this. I love Airbnb, and I think they're going to be obviously a really big company. They already are, but they have literally the worst software in the entire world. And if anyone from Airbnb is watching this, put it on the record. You guys need to fix it. If you go through their mobile app, it's the worst app I've ever seen for how big that company is.
Yeah, I'm always surprised. I stay in Airbnbs traveling, and
Yeah, it's so bad. And so, do you use Airbnb at all for like your stuff?
I don't have anything that's Airbnb, which is surprising because all those properties run the exact same, but I don't need it for marketing purposes.
Yeah, because I've seen people do that, like in random spots. They'll just like have a camper in their backyard or something.
Yeah, there's a company that does that. I don't know the name of it, but there's a website that does that, and there's lots of legislative pushback against it because they don't need the zoning and permitting, similar to when Airbnb first started and all the cities were having pushback because the hotels were outraged, angry about the way that was working. So that's happening with those same types of harvest hosts might be the name of it.
Harvest host, that'd be somebody who does like a backyard deal or
like
what?
Maybe they have a vineyard or they've got a farm and they set up a camper and randomly rent it. They're not held to the same permitting requirements. And so
I mean, it's not like it's real estate or anything. It's just come stay at my house.
Same as Airbnb. And so when the hotels, got really angry about that, and now there's all these permits and things that there weren't in the beginning. So similar.
I think the cool thing is just like all these creative ways to create cash flow. You're talking about RVs, you're talking about these campers, these freaking tents.
You know what's interesting? I just did this on my social media. I did a big series on the 7 different forms of income I make at a multi-million-dollar RV park. And there's so many things that aren't that. The camp store brings in like $200,000 a year at that property. People pay $25 to have a mascot bring them cookies and milk to their kids before they go to bed.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'd probably pay that too.
Exactly.
I think that's a cool experience.
It is. The kids love it, and they get their pictures taken, or if it's a birthday, the mascot brings them balloons and a cake.
What is the mascot? Is it a bear?
It is a bear.
I figured.
Yeah. And then firewood alone brings in thousands of dollars a year. There's just golf cart rental, the laundry room. There's endless sources of income. Like, sky's the limit on creativity with a property like that.
Yeah, and that's what's cool is, with commercial real estate, it's really just about, it's a business. I mean, it's really about generating income. It has nothing to do with, when we fix and flip, we're just like, all right, how nice can we make this thing and sell it for more? With commercial, it's like, can we decrease expenses? Can we increase revenue? Not necessarily just by charging more rent, but what are some other services we can offer?
Or what can we do? Yep.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you more about those different things. But before we do that, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor. Have you ever wanted to invest in real estate, but you didn't have the time to find deals yourself? That's where Fundrise comes in. Fundrise is a crowdfunding platform that has transacted over $5 billion in real estate and has over 150,000 active investors. While many funds, like my own, require accredited investors, Fundrise allows anyone to invest with as little as $500. If you'd like to learn more, check out fundrise.com. Once again, that's fundrise.com. We all know that I love creating passive income through rental properties, but did you know that you can create passive income through owning an e-commerce store? My company, Lunar Ecom, can build and manage a store for you on Amazon or Walmart. We'll handle everything from starting the store, picking the products, and all the day-to-day operations. It's completely passive for you. If you'd like to learn how store owners are making thousands a month in passive income, head over and watch the case study at lunarecom.com. It will explain everything you need to know about the industry and why I'm so excited about it. So to see the case study, head over to lunarecom.com. All right, so yeah, I love how much creativity commercial real estate gives you, especially in something like this where it's essentially just land and it's like, hey, make money however you want.
Sky's the limit. You're not going to get bored.
Yeah. I actually would enjoy, I don't enjoy doing day-to-day at business, but I kind of might enjoy something like that. It seems fun.
Yeah, there's a whole lot more creativity that goes into it.
Yeah. So you mentioned that, your kids grew up in these parks.
Yeah.
How was that? How is it balancing? Because they're, I assume, homeschooled too.
Yes.
How was that?
It's awesome. I think it creates this unique family dynamic where everybody's so much closer. And my kids are learning that you have to work. And my oldest is 9, and she already has all these neat little entrepreneurial ideas, and she wants to make sure she has her work shirt so that she's included and gets to be in each meeting. Mm-hmm. So it's neat to be inspiring and guiding them to become their own little version of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So are they, they're living in Florida right now, right? Majority of the time?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any parks or anything out there?
I don't. Only the house we live in Florida.
Okay. What made you want to live there but have everything in Tennessee?
Yeah. So I've always hated cold weather, and I was determined to live somewhere that was warm all year round. And a couple years ago, after I finally got a great team in place and I felt like I could breathe after treading water for so many years, I decided to move south. And I noticed that it's so much better. I've grown so much more because I focus on my business instead of in my business. When I'm in Tennessee, which I go there and stay a couple months a year, I end up making pizzas or being the person that runs to the store. I get sucked in.
When you go to Tennessee, do you still stay there at the sites?
Yeah. Yes.
Do you at least get a big tent though?
Yes, we stay in one of the cabins. With the kids, it gets tough with the tents. Yeah. That's
cool. So, you're talking about working on your business. What does your company look like now? I mean, you got 300 units and multiple sites. What does the team look like?
Yeah, I have a great team, and I couldn't do it without them. My mother is my COO, which is such a huge blessing to get to work with her every day. And I pretty much manage the managers at this point, and I feel like that helps me stay involved and know what I need to change when and make those high-level decisions. I haven't been able to quite let go of that.
What kind of tweaks, new products, pricing?
Yeah, and paying attention to even the customer complaints that come in. You can even think of this from Airbnb. The first couple of years, I would get really defensive about those customer complaints and just, And after that, I started thinking, okay, let's find something real in every bad review. There's something, even though some people are totally nuts, there's something real in that review.
Right.
And I feel like if I'm so disconnected from that, I can't make those decisions.
Yeah. I'm kind of the opposite. I I don't even want to see them. Like I just I want my team to look at them and be like, yo, just fix this.
Yeah, but
And
social bad reviews are a whole lot more harsh than customers.
yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, I try not to read the comments half the time.
Yeah.
People are just people. That's
Yes.
just how it goes.
And it's always the people who have like no profile picture and never made a post ever.
Yeah, they're trolls.
They're trolls.
Shout out to all the trolls. I mean, speaking of social, what do you got going on there? I mean, that's how we kind of met. You bought my social course, and we started talking a little bit, and then you told me kind of what you had going on. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
So a couple months ago, I got to thinking, so I'm really, really passionate about helping women become who they want to be and teaching them financial independence. My biggest pet peeve is I want to marry a rich man or I need a rich husband. I can't freaking stand that. And so I want to help women become financially free and learn that they can do more than that. And I didn't really know how to reach that audience. So I followed you from the real estate side, and you had mentioned that you had a social course. So I took your social course to learn how to start building a following. So I started posting about 2 months ago, and I'm up to almost 20,000 followers on TikTok. So that's been fun.
Nice. What kind of videos are you making?
Mostly stuff related to real estate, but then some of the sassier female stuff.
Just what, like dancing and just doing these trends?
Yeah, pretty much.
There you go.
I felt really dumb. I can remember when I first started and my mom would be watching me and I'm like, you can't watch me do this.
Yeah.
I can't do this if you're watching
I can't
me.
perform with other people watching. I hear you. Trust me, whenever I do my like stupid little pointing videos, I'm like,
Stop looking at
nobody
me.
watch me do
Stop
this.
looking at me.
Especially too, because you're just doing it in thin air. You're like, people are just watching you point to nothing.
Yeah.
So it's really dumb.
Yes.
But I feel your pain, but as we know, it is a necessary evil.
It is. So I started my women's community almost 2 weeks ago, and we already have 40 ladies in that. So
Oh, nice.
it's definitely paying off to have the social side of it.
All right, by the time this podcast launches, I want at least 500 ladies in there.
Yes, that's what we need.
I bet we'll make sure that we link to it down below. It's a Facebook group.
It is a Facebook group. So
Okay.
if you find me on Instagram, I can send that link to you.
Yeah. Well, and two, just for those of you in the description, we will put the link to the group so you guys can just join.
Awesome.
Can anyone join? Like, what's the qualifications?
You just need to be a female.
So, okay, guys, I won't see you in there, but everyone else join. And what do you guys talk about?
So a lot of it is encouragement and empowerment and celebrating each other's victories. I feel like as women, sometimes we're scared to speak up because it's not always well received. And women don't always celebrate each other's victories. And so a big part of it is celebrating each other's accomplishments and inspiring each other to do that.
Right.
In addition to that, we are talking lots of real estate and financial freedom.
This might be just like my perception, but it's like on social media, I feel like guys have like a lot more opportunity to like really just do what they want versus women. I mean, it's like women, the most famous ones are the ones who are just sex appeal.
Yeah, and it's
know?
interesting as females posting educational content on TikTok, I'll post something related to nothing but real estate, and then I'll get comments that are like, "Well, she's not that hot. I'm not here to be hot." Like,
Yeah, that's what I've thought about that too. Just like looking at it, and I'm like, man, there's not like many women teaching like finance or real estate or anything money related, right? And then I'm starting to think about, I'm like, what else do women on social media like that get famous do? I mean, there are ones that are funny. There are ones that
lots of clothing.
yeah, clothing and fashion, and those are cool, but the majority of them are getting famous for shaking their butt.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, whereas men, I look at men and it's like, yeah, okay, you have those same things. You got men who do fashion. You got men who are models and physique guys. And then you got, this big majority of dudes like who are talking about money and finance and
Or sports.
Yeah, you don't see women really doing sports. It's like there's just a lot of opportunities on social media that we have where people don't care how we look.
Yeah, and I think if more women were celebrating each other instead of attacking each other, that environment would grow. And so we need to be fixing each other's crowns instead of pulling each other down, which is the whole goal of the group, is celebrating each other.
Why do you think women do that?
I don't know. I think the media tells us to, and the TV shows that we see and the movies that we watch, that's what they're doing. And so women are trained to do that from an early age.
Why do you think, I've had a couple of women on the podcast recently. I actually made an effort myself to try and get more women who are crushing it on the podcast. In anything. It doesn't have to be real estate. It could be whatever. But the reality is there's really not that many.
No.
It's just, and maybe there is that we just don't know about because they don't talk about it or whatever, but there's just not that many. No matter how many events or masterminds I go to, it's always predominantly dudes.
One of the things I noticed early on is, as a human or an American, the years that we can afford to take risks in our life, whether it's your career or you think of it financially, are the same years that are childbearing and you raise kids. So I think the media teaches us that we're meant to do things a certain way, and that you have to, these are the years that you're raising kids and focusing on your family. You can do both.
Right.
And so I think a lot of women are held back by that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out and think about it. And I agree. I think many women, like you said, society tells you that this is the way to do it. And so
even think about Disney movies. They're all about finding your prince.
Yeah, that's true. But they're starting to try and do these more independent
ones
now.
Like Elsa.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what do you think that, obviously you're starting the group, but do you have a bigger plan for that to try and take it to another level? Because, you do, what do they call them? Boss ladies and stuff.
Yeah.
You see a couple of them trying to really go after it and promote, the women independence and to really grow and stuff. Do you see it becoming something like that?
I think one of the most important things is people taking action and teaching them to take action. So not just giving them the information, but helping them with tools that get them moving forward. We know this with literally people just watching your YouTube or listening to podcasts. They consume a ton of information and they never do anything with it.
Right.
So having the groups and coaching them through action plans and some mindset coaching mixed in with that helps them move forward, not just continue to gather the information.
Right. One thing I'll say is I also think that, and this is everybody, and I'm going to use just from my own statistics that I've seen. I think women, we always talk about there's this big issue with body image and stuff like that. The reality is men have the same issue. I've actually talked to so many real estate investors and entrepreneurs and just anybody about getting on social media because I truly believe in it, and I'm getting invited to speak to conferences and stuff. But one of the biggest pushbacks I get, and this is from men, they're like, yeah, but what if I'm not good looking and I'm not a good talker? Literally that's what they say. And I'm like, well, did you know that the majority of these dudes on social media are not very good looking? They're average at best.
Yeah.
They just are always.
Well, think about even news anchors or sports broadcasters. They're not all good looking.
No, they're not. The majority are not. And I think we're perceiving the models of Instagram and whatever, but in the business space or the sports space, that's not the case. And so my point with that is a lot of guys don't do anything because they have that same fear of oh, they're going to judge me because, I don't speak well, I don't look a certain way or whatever. And I know it's an even bigger issue for women, but it's just crazy to see. Also, the other part of it is if you look on my YouTube analytics, this is kind of crazy. You can see the demographics of, the age, the gender, all that stuff. On YouTube, 85% of my audience is male. So it really doesn't even matter how good I look. It doesn't, it's just a bunch of dudes trying to learn real estate.
Right.
And so when I tell them that, they're like, oh,
You're just talking to other guys.
Yeah.
After I got divorced and started dating, one of the biggest life lessons for me was realizing that I am not for everyone and everyone's not for me, and accepting that. I think that has made me more comfortable with social media and some of the attacks that trolls have. Is I am not for everyone and everyone's not for me. And that applies to business, that applies for employees, literally all aspects of life. Like, learning to accept that is very peaceful.
Yeah, you cannot please everybody. I think I actually talk about this in the course. Like, you have to pick your avatar, I call it. Like, hey, who's the person you want to reach? Because you cannot reach everyone.
Right.
Look at the world, right? Half the people hate the president, the other half love the president. Like, you can't appeal to both of them.
No.
It just is what it is, right? So we have to take the same approach. Like, I don't even want to hang out with people who don't like me anyway. What does it matter? Like,
why do you care?
Yeah, like, also, we're not even gonna enjoy hanging out with each other because we have no commonality.
Right.
So why do I care when a troll? At the end of the day, I kind of laugh at it because, like, well, who's the fool now? You took the time to watch my video, and like,
it's helping me because you made a dumb comment. And
yeah, you're helping the algorithm.
Yeah.
So look, it's not easy, and it only gets harder as you try and put more content out there and you make yourself more vulnerable, and it just is what it is. But it's worth it. At the end of the day, it's worth it not only for your business, but for the people that you do affect that really vibe with you, and that they're fans and whatever it is. Like, it's worth, even if you get 100 negative comments to help the one person, I think it's worth it.
It's kind of like the post that you make when your students have bought their first property.
Yeah.
When I get texts or messages from women who are doing something to empower themselves or move on, that one message makes all of the hate worth it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I just think, man, at least the commenters are saying it to your face, because there's way more people saying it behind your back than you even know.
Right.
So kudos to you for starting that group. Like, I want to see that thing grow. That's super cool.
Thank you.
So, you brought up a funny point to me before the podcast that in your organization, your ex-husband actually works for you still.
He does. I know that's not normal
Yeah.
For today's world, but it works really well. I couldn't replace him for all the things that he does and what it costs me. And
he won't listen to this podcast. We can't, you're going to lose your leverage.
But it works well. A lot of people that I meet, they have so much animosity towards their exes and they hate each other. And they say, Heather, you don't know what they did to me. You know what? He had an affair when I was 8 months pregnant with our third child and left me to raise the kids by myself. So I get that it is not ideal, but you can either choose to live in hate and stress and fight all the time, or you can choose joy and get along. And that's better for your kids. It's better for your life. It's better for your business, because as an entrepreneur, you need to protect your mindset. And being in that constant negativity doesn't work for anyone.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think, obviously you can relate better than anybody. Just like, I have no idea what that's like to go through, but how are you able to have that joy with so much craziness?
Nothing but Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he is agnostic. And so I feel like it is my job to, this is probably going down a different road than you want to, but I feel like it's my job.
It's funny. We actually just had another one on, and this is the road it always leads down. Once again, it's your audience is what they are. And I always talk about faith. So
I think it's my job to show him God's love. And so if I'm the Christian that he knows, and I'm all those things I just described to him, that's all he's ever going to see it as. I feel like it's my job to show him God's love and forgiveness. Now, that doesn't mean that I have some attraction to him or would ever be married to him again. Heck no. I have zero interest in any of that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I can't still show him God's love and be respectful and behave with maturity.
Yeah. Because, in the end, too, number one, that's amazing. And it takes extreme faith to do that.
Yeah.
And extreme amounts of forgiveness. And a lot of people just wouldn't even understand that still. After you explaining it, they're still like,
but they do this or they do that.
Yeah. I remember watching this. It was Monty Williams. It was a super sad story. He was the coach of the Pelicans, New Orleans Pelicans in the NBA. I don't know if he was the coach of them at that time, but his wife got killed in a car crash, and super sad. And I remember he did the funeral, and he basically said around the same lines of like, hey, like, I forgive him. It's only because of Jesus that I'm able to do that. And people were like, he's crazy. Like, how can he forgive somebody who just, killed his wife? And like, that story spoke to me so much that I still remember it to this day. Like, man, that's how you forgive somebody.
It is, because it only negatively affects you and your children in the long run.
Right.
And who wants to live like that?
Right. I think we all have the choice to forgive somebody, right? Like, at the end of the day, even if they don't ask for it,
Yeah.
we have the choice to choose how we want to live our life going forward. We can live with resentment and a grudge, or, we forgive and do our best to move on.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, for me, on a lesser note, obviously, than that, I've been burned many times in business, man. I mean, with contractors running away with money, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, tenants over and over again.
Yeah, the tenants tell you every story in the book, and then you give them leniency, and then they just burn you again. And but even despite all that, I've even had friends I've lent money to, and then just never hear back from them. And I could resent it. I could be like, whatever way, but I always look at it as every negative in my life anyways. I always look at it as a learning lesson. I'm like, hey, what could I have done differently? Or what am I going to do going forward next time this happens, It's
kind of like finding something real in those bad reviews.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, I mean, bad stuff's going to happen every day. That's just part of life, but...
Well, the successful people learn how to build off of that instead of just wallow in it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I don't know. I think, and you probably feel the same, for me, the hardest parts of my life have led to my biggest successes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How long ago was it that you got divorced?
4.5 years ago.
And you guys have, like, business-wise at least and everything else, things have been just really going crazy since then.
Yes.
What was, like, the biggest change you think you made?
Meaning as far as growth?
Yeah, just like business and like the lessons learned from that. Like, how's your life look different today than it did before?
Somebody asked me this in a entrepreneurship interview and asked if I had made any mistakes. And my original answer was no. And then I got to thinking about it, because I think of it like we're talking about, I learned from everything, so they weren't mistakes.
Nothing's a mistake, right?
Yeah, so I got to thinking about it, and the only mistake I think I made was listening. He didn't have this expectation of me. It was an expectation I had of myself based on what our culture defines women as. And so instead of focusing on what I wanted to become or what I was going to grow into, I slowed down during that phase that I was married to help build him up and help him become something. And in reality, we should have been able to both do that and support each other. Mm-hmm. And so going through divorce, I didn't need to do that for him anymore. So I was able to focus all of that on myself and my own business. And I'm probably worth, 20 times what I was 4 years ago.
Right.
Because I was, and it wasn't his fault. It's what the culture made me think I needed to become.
Right. No, it's crazy. So, I mean, as we go through all of this and we look at 2021 and the future going forward, I mean, what does it look like for you? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I think the sky's the limit. We talked about this earlier. If we were to even look back a year ago and say, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing, I'd have had no idea.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to keep buying properties, and I'm going to keep empowering women to become financially free and see where that takes me.
Do you have like a goal on how many properties you want or units? Are you searching for more RV, more mobile? Like, what is it?
So I love my affordable housing and I love my RV parks. I'm going to keep buying those. And I already hit my goal. My goal was to have $100,000 a month of passive income, not including the RV parks. Because as we've talked through this, they're pretty active. They're not passive properties. So my mobile home parks and my multifamily, I wanted to be at that $100,000 a month of passive income. So I hit that already. So I need a new goal.
Yeah.
I think that's where the women's group came from.
Yeah. So what do you do, like, at this point, knowing that I could just chill and make $1 million this year? Like, what fuels you to keep doing things?
I think it's a personality thing. Like I said, I tried sewing and knitting, and like I'm just not.
That cracks me up. Just like now talking to you, like, yeah, I got 300 units, and I'm making over 100,000 a month. It's like, but I used to be a sewer and a knitter.
Oh my gosh, I made so many embroidered clothes for my kids.
I didn't know if you were joking, like if that was like, you were stereotyping women, but you legit were sewing.
I legit tried that, and like baking all this different stuff, and
that's a Southern thing.
It is a Southern thing for sure.
I've lived in Vegas my whole life. I've never heard of one person being like, I want to sew. And
yes, it's a trendy thing. The girls like make their kids clothes with their names monogrammed on them, and all these homemade foods, and making your own.
Have you like done it for your kids recently?
No, F that. I'm not that woman anymore.
But you would know how if somebody gave you some stuff.
That woman is dead.
I love it. I just like to ask that question because for me, we bring a lot of successful people on the podcast, and I like to ask them, like, what's the next step, and many of them maybe have a goal of like, hey, I want to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
A lot of people come on because they're like, yeah, I want to grow social media. Like, I've achieved my financial success.
Right.
But now I want to really build my brand. And
which is what I'm working on, is building the brand and the social media to reach the women for the financial freedom.
Okay. So that's the whole key behind why you're building your brand.
Yes.
Just to grow.
That's the why.
What is the group called again?
The Intentional Woman. So
that's cool.
Making all of your decisions and choices with intention.
I like that. I like that. You gave me a cup earlier with I already forgot the saying. What is the saying?
It's don't say I can't, say I can and do it.
You said your mom came up with that?
Yeah, as a little child, I can remember it probably for the first time at 5 years old. Anytime I would start to say I can't do something, my mom, who is just an awesome lady, she would say, don't say I can't, say I can and do it. To literally everything. I think I was 6 when she had me call and order a pizza by myself for the first time. And I started mowing the yard at like 7 years old. So looking at my kids, I'm like, how the heck was I mowing the grass at this age? So her just constant pushing me made all the difference.
You're like, I can literally do anything.
I can literally do anything.
Right. And now she's your COO.
She is, yep.
And so have you ever had to tell her that if she's not like doing what she's supposed to do? Like throw it back at her?
Yes. Like, Mom, what's your deal today?
Yeah, like, you can do it. Made me do it when I was 6.
It's mostly from tech. Like, she'll get really mad at her Zoom account or like her cell phone. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I think that's awesome. I mean, what you've been able to do in 10 years and just do it while having no experience, figuring it out, winging it, while raising 3 kids in an RV park and going through what you went through with the divorce to, being where you're at now with everything. And like, it's super inspiring to see.
And what's interesting also is with growing TikTok, you get all these comments that are like, yeah, if we only grew up with those opportunities, or if everyone grew up rich. I didn't grow up rich. I grew up super poor in Mississippi. We would take a bath in a wheelbarrow in the backyard because we literally did not have running water in the house. And we didn't have enough money for all of our groceries. So we would go and do an exchange with the local farmers. So if you worked in their field for the day, they got to keep half of what you picked and you got to keep half of what you picked. And that's how we ate.
Wow.
So we would walk to church every Sunday. Like, people would pick us up on the side of the road so that we weren't walking. I did not grow up with extra opportunities. So my point is, literally, sky's the limit. It just depends on how bad you want it.
Well, and I think too, like, opportunities come to those who are like looking for opportunities
and not making excuses.
Yeah. The people who say, oh man, I can't ever find a good deal or this, it's because you're not like looking. You're just like, even if a good deal was right in front of you, you wouldn't even see it. Like, that's how I feel about the majority of people. When you talk about your very first deal of, buying this $3.2 million.
Yeah, I shouldn't have asked for it.
Yeah. Like, it's just, you would not have got it if you weren't seeking it.
No.
It's not like you were like actively like, okay, I'm about to buy this 100 unit. Like, you're like, hey, I'm looking for, I don't know what I really want, but I'm just looking.
Yep.
And then it presented itself.
Yes.
So I think that's awesome. That's how I've lived my life. I mean, everything we do in business and deals, it's like always this new thing that I'm like, I didn't think I'd be going that route, but here we are.
And that's usually the most successful part of it.
Right. Yep.
Just being open to those opportunities.
Yeah, no doubt. So, it's been amazing having you as a guest. Super inspiring story. I'm going to have to go glamping, no doubt about it, and just see what this tent is all about.
I'm sure your wife will be into that.
She will. We camped. Actually, the way we met.
I think I saw some college pictures of y'all on a.
Yeah, we were camping.
Were you kayaking or something?
Yep. So many people don't know this. The way her and I met was we went to UNLV. She was a freshman, I was a senior, and we both took this elective class that was tour the Hoover or kayak the Hoover Dam for like 2 days and go camp for 2 days, and you get a full credit. I was like, oh, this is sweet. Like,
yeah.
I'll go kayak and camp for a couple credits. And there's only 8 of us because it's this very small niche trip. And that was where I met her. Like, she was one of the campers. And, we were just bonding over these s'mores, and the rest is history.
You need a glamping tent for your anniversary.
We should.
Yeah.
I need to first see it, what it actually is. But, yeah, because that's how we met. I mean, we met. Not in the tent. We weren't like in the tent together, but I was looking at her tent and I'm like, man, okay, that's what it is. So, anyways, that's how we met. So full circle. But anyways, where can everyone find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram or TikTok at Heather Blankenship X3.
TikTok and Instagram. What about YouTube? Are you gonna make any YouTubes?
I have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
I'm working on it.
All right. Maybe by the time this post, we'll have some videos up. But cool. We will link to your socials down below. We will link to the Facebook group as well. And, if you guys got RV deals or all that, you also have a course on how to do RV rentals, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I've never heard of that course of somebody telling you how to buy RV parks. So check it out if that's something that interests you. And make sure, if you're not already subscribe to the podcast. On both YouTube and Apple Podcast. And we'll catch you guys later. Thanks for listening. Take care. Thanks for watching The Ryan Pineda Show. If you want to work with me, head over to ryanpineda.com. You can find my courses, coaching programs, and upcoming events. We also have free resources you can download, so head over to ryanpineda.com.